Hey everyone, welcome to this edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams along with Chris King. And we got a lot of fun stuff for you today. We're looking at college basketball that we're going to have for tonight. We got some games in the NBA, got a couple NHL games, and a look at, because you guys wanted it and we're more than happy to do it, the championship game of what will be the only NCAA college football championship that you're going to see. So that'll be on the docket. Plus, because it is Friday and we're in a giving mood, we are going to talk a little bit about what's going on with, excuse me, just a second, let me get rid of that. It's what we like to call a tease. There you go. It's a tease, just coming up. But what we're going to talk about is the NFL. And there's some interesting games, to be sure. And so, Chris, some opening thoughts here as we get ready for what's going to be an interesting weekend.
Well, I mean, like we said in the pre-show, there's going to be a lot of games that most people aren't going to worry about in the NFL unless they're fans of those teams. But there are a couple big games that are on the slate that are going to determine who's going to end up in the postseason and who's going to be playing golf. And we're going to talk about those today too.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
And for all those of you that are here yesterday, I mean, hopefully you paid attention to what we told you because you could have cleaned up because all three of the college basketball games we talked about yesterday in detail, all three NHL games and all three NBA games came up winners. So if you missed out on those, well, I feel bad for you.
Well, don't forget, we also threw in a bonus one because somebody asked us about UCLA and Long Beach State.
That's true.
And they asked about, would it be prudent to go, with the points, take Long Beach in the points? And we told them not prudent. And we were right. UCLA won. Long Beach played well, but trailed and kind of fell out toward the end there. So
but they did cover, though. That was the point.
That's the key, right? So there you go. That's the key. All right. Well, before we get going, let's talk about our sponsor. And it always is fun to talk about Caesars Sportsbook because they are really cool people. Now, here's what Caesars is going to do for you because you are so good about being part of our family. And, when we got something, when the family is there to have like a family discount, we're more than happy to share that family discount with those of you here. And that's what we're doing with Caesars Sportsbook. Now, if you happen to be one of those wonderful folks out there who want to take a shot at gambling, here's the opportunity. You can use Caesars Sportsbook app or the Caesars Sportsbook online. And if it's your first time doing it, then they're going to match the amount that you bet all the way up to $1,000. Okay. So, but the key is you have to enter the promo code Video Winners. Okay, so scrolling across there, all the information is in the show box below. So again, let me go over that for you one more time. Make a bet with Caesars Sportsbook, the first one, okay, on the app or online, and they'll match your dollar for dollar bet all the way up to $1,000. Okay, again, you have to use the promo code Video Winners. All the information is in the show box below. You must be 21 years of age to bet. And as we say, both Chris and I, and of course all our friends at Caesars, bet responsibly. Okay? All right, cool. So, moving on. We are getting ready to go to college basketball.
Yeah, not a ton of exciting games today. I know everybody's disappointed that IUPUI didn't get to play yesterday. Really? But hey, don't worry, we got another doormat for you tonight to look at. But first, Jim, let's point out here about Ryan talking about how you cashed in on Wright State in Vermont yesterday. We told you New Hampshire likes to go to Vermont to get their butts kicked, get some maple syrup, and go back home. And that's exactly what happened again yesterday. The Catamounts taking care of the Wildcats over there in Vermont. Wright State took care of UIC, dousing the Flames in Ohio. So Wright State, they've won 5 in a row now. And guess what, folks? They'll be taking on none other than IUPUI tomorrow. So you know where we're going to go there if you're looking take Wright State over IUPUI to make it 6 straight wins for the Raiders to get to 8-7 on the year. Ryan also pointed out how he took Illinois. We told you that Kofi Cockburn was going to have his way inside because you said that Qudus Wahab couldn't stop him after, making that transfer from Georgetown to Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
The Fighting Illini taking down the Terps, and Long Beach State plus 27 beating UCLA. And David the Italian telling us about how he took the over 143, and of course that game was probably over that number with 10 minutes to go.
I was going to say.
It ended up 96-78. So good on you guys for coming up with some good numbers for yourselves. Glad you guys had some success. Hopefully we can keep that going for you.
Yeah. I hope they bet through Caesars Sportsbook.
And Joaquin also pointing out he had UCLA, Long Beach State going over the number. So seems like it was a good day for everyone yesterday.
That's right. And we did that one on request, ladies and gentlemen. That was not even on the list.
So we'll go to the Horizon League, where tonight the Cleveland State Vikings are taking on our other favorite doormat of late, Robert Morris. The Vikings 8-3, the Colonials 2-11 on the year. Robert Morris is just 1-3 at home. Now I know Cleveland State, they're 0-2 on the road, but if you look, they lost to a BYU team that's 12-3 by 10, and they lost in overtime in Stillwater against Oklahoma State. Nobody's going to fault you for losing to those two teams when you're a mid-major.
Right.
Cleveland State 109th in scoring offense. They were 75.4 points a game. They're 40th in field goal percentage, 87th in effective field goal percentage at 52.2. Meanwhile, Robert Morris struggles on the defensive end of the floor. We've seen it repeatedly. They're 337th in scoring defense, giving up 77.6 points a game. Opposing teams shoot 45.5% from the floor, and they shoot 37.9% from three-point range. That's 344th out of 358 teams in Division I. When you see a number that big, it's not a good thing. Cleveland State is 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 on the road against teams with a losing home record. They are 13-3 in their last 16 after an ATS loss. Robert Morris, 5-21-1 against the spread in their last 27. 3-14-1 against the spread in their last 18 after an ATS loss. And they are 1-10-1 against the spread in their last 12 against teams with a winning straight-up record. Now, you can say, oh, no, Cleveland State's 0-2 on the road. But I'll take a team that lost in overtime to a Big 12 team and lost by 10 to a very good team in the West Coast Conference that will soon be a Big 12 team.
Right.
Over a team like Robert Morris that has beaten, well, let's be honest, absolutely nobody of value. We'll just take a quick look so everybody knows who Robert Morris has beaten, so you can think of these great basketball powers. Yes, they've beaten Lancaster Bible and St. Francis of Pennsylvania, rated 293rd in the Ken Pom rankings.
Well, they're both Pennsylvania schools because Lancaster is from, central Pennsylvania. And so, yeah. This is kind of a little off the wall, but I don't understand. Robert Morris is in Pittsburgh. How are they the Colonials? All right, fair enough.
I guess because Penn already took the Quakers, so they had to come up with something.
Yes, they didn't have any choice. All right, well, fair enough. All right, Cleveland State and Robert Morris. We move on to our second Horizon game of the night.
Yep, Youngstown State. It's the other school with multiple letters from the state of Indiana, the Indiana-Purdue Fort Wayne Mastodons. Youngstown State, they're 9-5 on the year. They just beat Robert Morris the other night. The Mastodons 5-7. They lost back-to-back games to Cleveland State. So there you go. There, nice tie-in. The Mastodons 0-5 on the road this year. Youngstown State 5-2 at home. The Mastodons 292nd in scoring defense. They give up 73.3 points a game. They are 346th in field goal percentage defense as opposing teams shoot 47.3% from the floor, and they're 314th in three-point defense. Just in case you were wondering if they were just bad on defense, no, they're bad on offense too. They're 222nd in offensive efficiency. They're 279th in turnover percentage. They don't get offensive rebounds, and they are 283rd in block percentage. Nearly 11% of their shots get blocked. Youngstown State 112th in turnover percentage offensively. They're 154th in scoring offense. And probably more importantly than anything else, they can shoot free throws. That's an overlooked thing when you get to these games, especially late in the game when you're trying to make sure that your team A is still ahead and B can cover a line. You see a lot of these teams that struggle at the stripe. Youngstown State, 74.8%. Can't complain about that when you're hitting 3 out of 4. Mastodons 2-5 against the spread in their last 7 on Friday. Youngstown State 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 against teams with a losing record. This line actually bumped down a little bit. It was Youngstown State by 6.5. It's at 5 now. Makes me feel a lot better for anybody that wants to go after the Penguins and fade the Mastodons, who, just in case anybody was wondering, we talked about how they're not that great. The Mastodons' best win this season coming with a win over Northern Kentucky. The Norths are 231st in the Ken Pom rankings. Their other wins at home over Southeast Missouri State, rated 304th. Southeastern Louisiana on a neutral floor, rated 302nd. And Austin P rated 309th. So the Mastodons on their road games this season, they lost to Florida Gulf Coast by 7. They lost to Southern Illinois Edwardsville by 21. And they lost to Cleveland State by 9 and 7. They also have a 29-point loss at Minnesota at the Williams Arena back in November. With the way that Youngstown State plays, the Mastodons are in trouble. John Kaufman's team struggles badly on the defensive end. They're 342nd in effective field goal percentage defense at 55.6%. Teams shoot that same 55.6% inside the arc. Look for the Penguins to have a nice offensive night and take advantage of the Mastodons' leaky defense to get the victory at home.
It's only about 90 miles from Youngstown to Pittsburgh, and about the same, frankly, to Cleveland. And obviously Youngstown does not have a professional team. I gotta say, the community in Youngstown really supports that university. So they get a lot of people, not just students, but a lot of Youngstown fans who love going out and watching Youngstown sports, whether it's basketball or football. Or, they truly have a community that supports that team. So I'm sure that there'll be a rocking night tonight on campus at Youngstown State.
Right in the Beagley Center.
Yeah. So cool. Anyway. All right, so there's our Friday night look at what's going on in the Horizon Conference. Let's move on to the ice, correct?
Right, we've got 2 games on the ice tonight. We're going to start down in the Tar Heel Stadium in Raleigh, where the Carolina Hurricanes are going to host the Calgary Flames at the PNC Arena. Flames 17-9-6, Carolina 23-7-1, as they're right up there in the thick of the Metropolitan Division race with the Capitals and the Rangers. Calgary, they've lost 2 straight. They lost 6-2 to Florida the other night. They lost 4-1 last night to Tampa Bay. We told you to take the Lightning, so hopefully you listen to us if you decide to bet on the hockey game. Andrei Vasilevsky shut down the Flames. And now Calgary has to play for the second game of a back-to-back, their third game in 4 nights. The Hurricanes 10-3 at home. Flames 13-6-2 on the road. But Carolina, here's the thing. This is the third game in 4 nights for, like I said, for Calgary. Carolina hasn't played since last Saturday when they beat Columbus on New Year's Day. Talk about a rest advantage there. Mm-hmm. They haven't played in 5 days, 6 days, While the Flames are going to be tired, they're going to be heavy-legged coming in this one. I think it's going to be Dan Vladar. I'm going to have to double-check real quick to see if that's who they're going to start or if they're going to run Markstrom out there again tonight. Let's see. Nope, they are going to send out Markstrom again even though it's a back-to-back. I'm surprised.
Really?
But, that's been confirmed by Pat Steinberg that they're going to – I figured it was going to be Vladar with it being the second game of a back-to-back. But it's going to be Markstrom and Frederick Anderson for the Hurricanes. Anderson 17-5 with a 192 goals against and a 929 save percentage. He's played really well down there. I wish he had played like that when he was in Toronto, but he got supplanted last year by Jack Campbell, and that made him expendable. But good on Anderson that he's put together some good hockey down there in the Tar Heel State. Calgary 2-5 in their last 7 overall. They're 0-5 in their last 5 against teams with a winning record. The Canes 7-0 in their last 7 with at least 3 days of rest. 6-1 in their last 7 against teams with a winning record, and they are 23-8 in their last 31 overall. You have to figure, come the second, third period, Calgary's legs are going to be dead playing the third game in 4 nights on the road. You had to go from Sunrise to Tampa to Raleigh. Meanwhile, Carolina's been sitting at home since New Year's Day.
Right.
They've had plenty of time to sharpen the skates and get some rest.
Mm-hmm.
And they play good hockey at home. You have to think the Hurricanes will get the victory there.
The other thing, too, that a lot of people don't think about is back-to-backs, and specifically in this one that we're talking about. You figure they finished last night in Tampa, game got over probably around 11 o'clock. They probably got to the airport by maybe 1 o'clock. They got in their hotel, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And they probably don't do a skate. I would think not, that they would not, do a morning skate. So by the time they, get to the arena at PNC and get ready to play, you're right. They're going to be tired before they get started. And so we'll see. Because usually in hockey, Kristen, you don't play 3 games in 4 nights.
Yeah, it's not a common occurrence. Normally, you'll get back-to-backs here and there, but there's usually then a couple-day gap in between.
Right.
But with the Flames having all those issues where they were shut down from mid-December on,
right.
They're trying to slam some games in here.
Right. Playing makeup stuff.
Yeah, blame Gary Bettman.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Gary. Okay, so from the Tar Heel State, we move on.
Yep, we're going to go to the Gateway City out there. They're not playing in the old Checker Dome. They're playing in the Enterprise Center. The Washington Capitals go on the road to face the Blues. Washington 26-8 this year. St. Louis 19-10-5. The Blues 7-2-1 in their last 10. They lost to Pittsburgh, of course, Wednesday night in a game where we told you to back the Penguins in the Glass House. Of course, we also told you to take the Penguins yesterday against the Flyers. Mm-hmm. And, of course, Pittsburgh put the boots to Philadelphia, beating them 6-2. Right. But Washington, they're no slouches either. They're 6-2-2 in their last 10. And this is another situation. Now, Washington hasn't played since Sunday when they lost in overtime to New Jersey 4-3. Right. So you got a rest factor there, too. Both teams averaging 3.44 goals a game, which is tied for 6th in the league. But Washington has been better defensively. They're 7th in goals against at 2.59. St. Louis 13th at 2.76. Washington 10-3-3 on the road. The Blues 12-3-2 at home. Washington 4-1 in their last 5 as an underdog. They're a slight underdog here. The Blues going off at -115. They're 53-18 in their last 71 on Friday. St. Louis 2-5 in their last 7 on Friday. In the last 8 meetings between these teams, Washington has won 6 of them, and they've taken 4 of the last 5 matchups in St. Louis. Tonight's starting goaltenders are projected to be – where's my page here? I've got so many tabs open to keep track of this stuff. Right. There we go. Ilya Samsonov, 13-2-3 with a 264 goals against and a 907 save percentage in net for Washington. It's expected to be Jordan Binnington, 10-7-3 with a 3 goals against and a 908 save percentage for the Blues. I mean, Samsonov, Jim, you can attest to it being up there in Washington. Yeah. He's played some pretty good hockey. I mean, he bumped Vitek Vanacek to the number 2 role. And I like the way the Capitals have been playing. You have to think that they'll get the win there over St. Louis, even though St. Louis has played well at home of late.
Right. You can run – the Capitals can run 3 and 4 lines at you. And, there's probably, maybe 6 or 8 teams in the league that can do that. St. Louis does not have that. They don't have that kind of depth. And as you say, with Caps being off for a while and getting their legs from under them, I can assure you that at least one of the players on that team with the last name of Ovechkin can't wait to hit somebody that doesn't have a Capitals jersey on. One
thing we can tell you is the Blues should be thawed out now, after that. They've now had nearly a week since the Winter Classic when they played up in Minnesota.
Yeah, they should.
At least they'll be room temperature.
Well, definitely the Blues make a lot of sense after that game. They played in the sub-zero temperatures up there. But one last thing before we get off this one, St. Louis is a great hockey town. I mean, you don't think of it as being that way, but they really are. They've done a fantastic job of supporting that team, since its inception.
Yeah, unfortunately, they sing Gloria all the time, and it gets old really fast.
Yeah, that does tend to make you want to go nuts. But all right. Okay, so the Caps taking over the Blues tonight. Go.
And that's it for the NHL. They only have 2 games today.
Yeah,
Played Gary Bettman.
There you go. Rocking the red. So we're moving on to the association.
Yes, sir. We're going to go first to Philadelphia. The 76ers favored by 7.5 points over the San Antonio Spurs. Now, in case you weren't up to date on the latest information, we've got the latest injury report for you here. The Spurs have ruled out Keldon Johnson, Doug McDermott, Devin Vassell, Derek White, and Thaddeus Young. They were all thrown into the health and safety protocols yesterday. Zach Collins also out as he continues to recover from that stress fracture in his ankle. Lonnie Walker IV is questionable, as is Devontae Kaycock. For the 76ers, Danny Green questionable with a calf. Isaiah Joe questionable with a back injury. Tyrese Maxey, Shake Milton, Paul Reed, and Jaden Springer all out for different reasons. Health and safety protocols for 3 of them. Milton has a back injury. And, of course, Ben Simmons, we don't need to talk about him. We've talked about that enough. The 76ers, they've won 4 in a row. They're coming off that road win over Orlando the other night. The Spurs, they're playing the 3rd game in 4 nights on this road trip. They were blown out Tuesday by Toronto, 129-104. Then they beat Boston 99-97 Wednesday. But the Spurs 0-5 in their last 5 on the road against teams with a losing home record, which when you think of Philadelphia, Jim, you can attest to this, knowing how well the 76ers had played at home in recent years.
Mm-hmm.
But this season, they're just 7-8 at home compared to 14-8 on the road. Normally, you'd think the 76ers don't get 14 road wins in 2 or 3 seasons combined with the way they played in recent years.
Right.
But they're a sub-500 team at the Wells Fargo Center this year. However, we're talking about here, they're 4-1 in their last 5 overall, 4-1 after allowing 100 points, which is scary that Orlando scored that many, and 4-1 in their last 5 on Friday. With the Spurs missing now Johnson, Vassell, Young, and Derek White, I mean, you're talking about 3 guys that average in double figures in that Spurs rotation. You're going to put a lot of pressure on DeJounte Murray to carry the load. I don't think the Spurs can get enough points from it elsewhere to come up with a win. What do you think, Jim?
You're talking 60 points that you're taking off the board to start with. Okay, let's just say for the sake of argument, let's drop that down a little bit. Let's say it's 35, 40 points. So, it's not like San Antonio's not deep to begin with. So you take those guys off the board, that does not help. And the point that you're making about the 76ers having a losing home record, and I know, having been in that, in Philadelphia doing both basketball and hockey, I can tell you, the last thing you want is to have a losing record in Philadelphia because they'll boo you. So you may have a more hostile crowd at home than you would on the road with the way things go in Philly. But no, the Sixers, they should be able to beat San Antonio. You're absolutely right with regard to you can't take those guys off the board and expect San Antonio to score points.
Now, real quick, Jim, just to go back to college basketball, we've got somebody asking us, what do we think about Georgetown being a home underdog tonight against Marquette?
Ooh.
I mean, let's be honest. Marquette lost 4 in a row. Now, I know they beat Providence the other night, but I think Providence might have been a little too full of themselves after beating DePaul so handily on the road. I mean, we are talking about a Marquette team that still is only 9-6. They lost at Xavier. They lost at Wisconsin. They lost to St. Bonaventure on a neutral floor. Their lone road win was a 1-point victory over Kansas State. I mean, I know Georgetown, Patrick Ewing's had a tough time, but they had won 3 straight, including that home win over Syracuse before they fell to TCU.
Right.
I know part of the issue might be because of the fact that Georgetown hasn't played in almost 3 weeks. Their last game was that loss to TCU on December 18th. But I don't know if they should be an underdog, given the fact that Marquette really, hasn't impressed anyone when you get right down to it. I mean, they played well early in the season. They won their first 5. They were 7-1, but since then they've gone 2-5.
Yeah. What's the line?
Georgetown is getting 2 to 2.5, depending on which book you're looking at.
All right. So Marquette's a favorite. you got basically what? We'll just say that Georgetown's getting 3 points. It'd be hard pressed for me not to say Georgetown's gonna, that would be a good thing. Take Georgetown.
Yeah, I mean, I like, both teams are going to run. I mean, Marquette's 22nd in tempo. Georgetown is 23rd. The big difference, really, when you get down to it, is offensive rebounding. Georgetown is 34th in the nation. They get offensive rebounds on 34.1% of their possessions. Marquette, 309th in that category. And three-point shooting favors Georgetown. They're 11th in the nation, 39.2%. To Marquette is 220th. So Marquette's not going to shoot from three-point range with any kind of success. Now, the Golden Eagles have a little bit of an edge on the defensive end of the floor, but are they going to be too full of themselves after that win over Providence the other night? I have to agree with Jim. I would probably take the points and back Georgetown because it's going to be a close game, more than likely. And Marquette, they're a middle-of-the-road team when it comes to shooting free throws, so they don't tend to put games away. We've seen them lose close games already this season. Like I said, they lost by 8 to UConn. They lost by 9 to Xavier. They lost by 11 to UCLA. They lost in double overtime to Creighton. And in a double overtime game against Creighton, they scored 69 points.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably lean towards Georgetown in the points there just because of the fact that they're at home. And when you look at it, Georgetown 6-2 at home, Marquette 1-2 on the road.
I'd
probably lean towards the Hoyas there.
One other thing, and to your point on the offensive rebounds in general. I mean, it's Patrick Ewing, okay?
That's true.
If the team's going to do one thing right, it's going to learn how to rebound, okay, on both ends of the floor. Because when Patrick played, that was Patrick's forte. He would grab what didn't get put in and probably put it in himself. And if not, on the other side, he was, constantly playing defense. So if Georgetown's going to do one thing right, they're going to rebound. So you're not going to get a lot of second shots.
And a big thing in this game, too, is Marquette is going to have to find a way to stop Caden Rice and Donald Carey. Rice, 43 of 101 from three-point range. He's shooting 42.6%. Carey, 26 of 55, so he's shooting 47.3% out there. And Carey is not a guy you want to foul if the game's on the line. This season, he's 31 of 33 at the stripe.
That's pretty impressive. The other thing, too, and I'll end it with this one. You'd mentioned that Georgetown had beaten Syracuse, and that is Georgetown's biggest rival, is Syracuse. And that goes back to the old Big East days when when Georgetown had, Big John was the coach, and Boeheim was still at Syracuse, and he still is. So, yeah, I mean, Georgetown definitely, I don't know. I'm not seeing it from Marquette, but, we'll move on. From Philadelphia, we leave the city of brotherly love, and we go over to Chi-Town.
Yep, we got the Wiz taking on the Bulls. Remember, these two teams met last Saturday when DeMar DeRozan hit that three-pointer contested at the buzzer in the corner for a 121-19 Chicago victory. The Bulls have won 8 in a row now. They're atop the Eastern Conference. They're ahead of now the Nets, and they're 2.5 games ahead of the Bucks in the Central Division. Meanwhile, Washington's lost 4 of their last 6. They lost 114-111 at home to Houston. Congratulations, Houston. You're now 4-28 or whatever in your games outside that 7-game win streak you had. Meanwhile, the Bulls 10th in the league in scoring offense, 110.7 points a game. They're 3rd in field goal percentage, and they lead the league in three-point shooting at 38.5%. Washington, they've struggled a bit offensively. They're 22nd in scoring offense, 8th in field goal percentage, but they don't shoot well from the perimeter. They're 26th in three-point shooting. Chicago 13-4 at home. The Wizards 9-12 on the road. Wizards 4-10-1 in their last 15 on the road. 3-8 in their last 11 on the road against teams with a home winning percentage greater than 600. The Bulls 9-3 in their last 12 at home against teams with a losing road record. And Washington has lost 12 of the last 17 meetings between these teams against the spread. I like the Bulls only given 6. Updated injury report on that one says, let's see, Washington. Davis Bertans is doubtful with a foot sprain. Thomas Bryant still out recovering from that ACL injury he suffered last year. Rui Hachimura still not with the team. Brad Wanamaker, Tremont Waters, and Anthony Gill are all out in the protocols. Montrezl Harrell, questionable for Washington. He'd be a big boost if he can play tonight. For the Bulls, Alex Caruso out with the foot sprain. He's also in the protocols. Tyler Cook has an ankle sprain. Javonte Green, an adductor strain. And Patrick Williams, of course, has been out since early November. He's out until April after having surgery for a torn ligament in his wrist.
You know, I know you're big. We both are, but you were bullish on the Bulls, and they've just been playing well, and Washington has been woefully inconsistent. So it's hard not to like the Bulls here.
James, I wouldn't say that the Jazz are dead in the water. They might not win tonight, considering they're resting half their lineup. But when you look at the standings and see that they're 9 games ahead of everybody else in the Northwest Division and they're third in the Western Conference, I don't think you can count a team like that as dead. I mean, they beat Denver the other night without Gobert, without Whiteside, without Ingles. Now, I'm not saying they're going to hang anywhere near close with the Raptors tonight because of the fact that they've taken out so many guys. Like Bogdanovich isn't playing tonight and Mitchell's not playing. But saying they're dead in the water, if you're saying for one night, maybe. If you're saying for the season, you're way off base.
Let me ask you, where are they playing that game?
That game's at the Scotiabank Arena.
Okay, so they're playing in Toronto.
Right.
Okay. Because I was going to say, if they're playing Utah, if Toronto was coming to Utah, a lot of people forget that Utah also is a mile-high city. So the air is rare there too. So you can have a good 3 quarters, and then that fourth quarter can be like you're gasping. So, but that ain't the case. They're playing in Toronto, so you can't gas yourself in Toronto. But yeah, I mean, how can you say that a team is dead in the water when they're leading their division, lapping the field? And yesterday we had a conversation, which hopefully most of you heard, that we made. Chris certainly made a very strong argument that Utah was one of the top 3 teams in the league. So,
well, James did clarify. He said for this game, so I can understand that. Like I said, because Donovan Mitchell's not playing, Conley's being rested, so I think Rudy Gay is questionable. So, yeah, I mean, go bareback in the protocols.
Mm-hmm. Now that's fair. He's being fair. So, all right, Bulls and Wiz. Who comes up next on the? Oh my! The Cleveland Cavaliers. The second time the Cavs have been favored on our board here, buddy.
That's true, but we're going to go out to the Rose City. Portland 6-point underdog against Cleveland. Cleveland 21-17. Portland 14-23. Remember earlier in the year when we talked about how great Portland was at home when they were 10-1? Well, they're 2-9 since. Cleveland 10-8 on the road. Portland will be without their starting backcourt. Damian Lillard out with abdominal tendinopathy. C.J. McCollum still coming back from that collapsed lung. Larry Nance Jr., Cody Zeller also out tonight for Portland. Makes you wonder where they're going to get points from. I mean, I know Anthony Simons carried them in that win over Atlanta earlier this week. But, I mean, you're talking about a major blow to your offense when you're minus Lillard and McCollum. Zeller has now been upgraded to questionable, but I still wouldn't bank on it. Cleveland won't have Isaac Okoro. He's out with a sprained elbow. Ricky Rubio, Colin Sexton, both tore knee ligaments. They're done for the year. Rajon Rondo, who was recently acquired from the Lakers because apparently Cleveland decided they needed a really old point guard that can't shoot. And C.D. Osman, both probable tonight for Cleveland. Cleveland second in the league in scoring defense at 102.6 points per game. Portland 27th in that category. And just to show that Portland, that isn't a typo, Portland is dead last in field goal percentage defense. They are dead last in 3-point defense. If Cleveland can't score points against Portland Cleveland should just pack it in and go down to the G League. We'll bring up the Lakeland Magic as the new team in the NBA.
Well, that's our favorite G League team. So yeah.
Cleveland 21-4-1 in their last 26 after scoring at least 100 points. They're 16-4-1 after allowing at least 100. Portland 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 against teams with a winning record. 0-4 in their last 4 playing on one day of rest, and 0-3-1 in their last 4 at home against teams with a winning road record. You just can't trust Portland without the combination of Lillard and McCollum. I mean, we talk about the Clippers without Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, that you're looking at basically the same sort of situation here because Lillard and McCollum pile up points by the truckload for Portland. Mm-hmm. And outside of them, they don't really have a whole lot of options. You've got Norman Powell and Nurkic, and I guess like you can lump Simons in there because of the way he played the other night. But is that going to hold up against a Cleveland defense that's second only to Golden State and holding opponents from scoring? I don't think so.
No, I think you're right. We have any more in the association? Or are we going to go on talk about some college football?
We got the FCS title game coming up next.
Okay, coming up next. Here we go, folks.
Now, people asked about this one. It's the North Dakota State Bison. They're favored by 7. They're taking on the Montana State Bobcats. Just to give you a little bit of history, Montana State hasn't won the FCS title in college football since the 80s. North Dakota State has won 8 times in the last, decade. This is the 9th time in 11 years you're going to see North Dakota State play for the FCS title. And the other 8 times that they've been here, they won. They won from 5 straight times from 2011 to 2015, and then they won in 2017, 2018, and 2019. This is going to be a defensive battle for sure. The Bison are first in the league, or first in the nation in scoring defense. They give up 11.2 points a game. Montana State, second, 13.4 points a game. North Dakota State's third in total defense. They're 11th against the pass. They're third against the run. They're 20th in turnover percentage. Montana State, they're going to try to run the ball. They're 7th in total or rushing offense at 225 yards a game. They're 86th in passing offense and tied for 35th in scoring offense. Meanwhile, you want to talk about a team that's going to run the ball. North Dakota State is it. They are third in the FCS, averaging 273.6 yards per game on the ground. They don't throw a whole lot. They're 1/10 in passing out of 123 teams. But they're 14th in scoring offense at 33.8. Montana State, they're a little worse defensively than North Dakota State, 13th in total defense, 13th against the run, and 21st against the pass. This is kind of like what we talked about last week with the CFP semifinal matchups where it's been there, done that against somebody that hasn't been here in a while. I get Montana State. They beat Sam Houston State earlier in the FCS playoffs. Sam Houston State was the defending champs. They blew them out. Mm-hmm. But you're facing a team in North Dakota State that will just run the ball down your throat. They've got 2 or 3 guys that can beat you. Their quarterback is a good runner. Montana State had their starting quarterback transfer at the start of the playoffs, so they've got a new guy in there that's taken over. If you don't want to play the line, if you don't want to play the 7, I would lean towards the under. The total is 42. I don't think you're going to see anywhere near that with these 2 defenses. So take North Dakota State because, like I said, they've been here. They've done that. They're looking for their 9th title. Interestingly enough, Jim and I talked about this yesterday. The last 2 coaches at North Dakota State, Craig Bohl, who took the Wyoming job and has had success there, and Chris Kleeman, who took the Kansas State job. And,
right.
They just beat LSU in the Texas Bowl the other day. They've been here. They've done that. They know what it's all about. Right. Montana State hasn't been there. Look for the Bison to make it 9 titles since 2011 and take the under because if either team gets to more than 23 points, I would be shocked. And James said that with your phone ringing that he's not here if anybody asks.
I appreciate that. My apologies for the phone ringing. It was probably someone calling to ask us, who was going to win this game. Unfortunately, Chris finished it up, so that's why they hung up.
No, it was probably Jack calling to tell us why, he's going to go to the Birmingham Bowl.
We're going to wrangle him in here for the bowl for Monday. Your point is well taken about North Dakota State. They're, for all intents and purposes, the Alabama of that division. They just keep rolling out there every year, and if they don't win, they come pretty darn close to it. Now, isn't the coach from Montana? Isn't he somebody that has some tie to North Dakota?
Yeah, he actually played college football for North Dakota State, and he was also under Bowl at North Dakota State before he went on to transfer over to take the job at Montana State.
So well, there you go.
There's ties everywhere to North Dakota State. North Dakota State, like Jim said, is the Alabama of the FCS. You look at the last couple of quarterbacks. Trey Lance played there.
So look, maybe he's like the Kirby Smart of of the division. So there you go. All right. Well, before we move on, and we got plenty to move on, let's go and talk a little bit more about our sponsor, the folks at Caesars Sportsbook. Now, Caesars Sportsbook, here's what we want you to know, folks, and that is that they really love to work with us, and they like you guys. So what we want you to do is make your first wager with Caesars Sportsbook, either on their app or on their online. And if you use the special code that they have for Winners and Whiners, which is the promo code of Video Winners, which scrolls right there below, they're going to match every dollar that you bet on your first wager there, all the way up to $1,000. Okay, so it's double your money, folks. You can't lose in that deal. So we strongly recommend that you check out Caesars Sportsbook. Now, again, all the information on Caesars Sportsbook is in the show box below. Be sure to use that promo code Video Winners, because if you don't, then you don't get the deal. And we want you to get that deal. Okay, so get the deal, use the promo code. You have to be 21 years or older to play. And as we say, and of course our friends at Caesars, always bet responsibly. Okay? All right, cool. So check out Caesars over the weekend. And again, all the information's in the show box below.
And Jim, just before we move on to talk about the NFL real quick, John asked us about IUPUI talk. John, we talked about it early. IUPUI will take on Wright State tomorrow. We talked about Wright State yesterday beating UIC.
Yeah.
KenPom currently has IUPUI going down 77-57 as a prognostication. And they give the Jaguars a 4% chance of beating the Raiders. That game is at Wright State. The Raiders, like we said, they've won 5 in a row now after they hung 90 on the Flames last night. Mm-hmm. Now, let's not forget the Jaguars haven't scored more than 61 points all season. So I think you're safe leaning towards the Raiders running rampant on the Jaguars.
The line's 20 points.
Well, no, the projected margin of victory is 20. I don't think they have a line on this one yet. Let me double check. Might not be out yet.
Yeah.
Let's see. Because I know that sometimes, the sports books are a little sluggish getting these things out.
Well, the important thing is we're fading IUP. That's
pretty much.
That's pretty much it, folks. I mean, you don't need to know much more than that.
Especially with the way Wright State has played in the last 5, they've scored 72, 84, 80, 72, and 90 points in the last 5 games. Even the worst of those would dust IUPUI's best offensive showing of the season.
Yeah. It's not like they're going to run, that's for sure. So, all right. Without any further ado, let's move on to the National Football League, where there's some games to be played this weekend. A lot of them have more positioning implications than actually playoff situations. But we're going to look at the ones who have actual playoff situations. So here we go.
Yeah, we're going to talk about, like Jim said, we'll talk about these couple. If anybody has any questions, we can touch on those for sure. But this one, the Rams, they're favored by 4.5 points at SoFi Stadium against the 49ers. The Rams 12-4, the 49ers 9-7. If the Rams get the win here, they would clinch the NFC West. Of course, if the Cardinals were to somehow lose to Seattle, that would clinch the division for them as well. The 49ers can clinch a playoff spot with a victory. Now, the 49ers beat the Rams 31-10 at home in the first meeting this year on November 15th, giving them 5 straight in this series. A big matchup here is going to be how these teams match up offensively against the opposing defense. 49ers 7th in rushing offense at 126.9 yards per game, but they're facing a Rams defense that's 6th against the run, giving up 101.2. On the flip side, Matthew Stafford and the Rams like to throw. They're 5th in the league in passing offense at 277.6 yards per game against the 49ers pass defense that is 5th in the league, giving up 206.8 yards per game. The big thing here is Trey Lance is probably going to start for the 49ers at quarterback.
Right.
Jerry Garoppolo, who's got that thumb injury. And that kind of takes away some of the intrigue as to what the 49ers are going to do. You know that Lance isn't going to throw the ball a ton. He's not as polished of a passer as Garoppolo when you get right down to it. And that kind of makes you wonder, why have George Kittle and Deebo Samuel on the field if you're not going to throw them the ball? The Rams, they're going to have – Stafford's going to have to avoid throwing the pick sixes that have been plaguing him of late. But, you still got Cooper Kupp, you still got Odell Beckham, and you got Tyler Higbee and those guys. Cam Akers has a chance of playing this week. He tore his Achilles back in July. That could be a boost for the run game for the Rams. It's just hard to trust San Francisco on the road here with a backup quarterback, especially when Aaron Donald's going to be in the middle of that defensive line. Lance is going to be looking around for 99 every snap. The 49ers 2-5 against the spread in their last 7 on field turf. They're 1-4 in their last 5 against the NFC West. The Rams 4-1 in their last 5 overall, and 4-1 in their last 5 after giving up 150 yards or more on the ground. It's not one of those games where you have a ton of faith in the 49ers, like I said, with the backup QB, and the Rams know that a win here could push them up to, I believe it would push them up to the 2 seed because they already beat Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And
head-to-head.
Did they play Dallas? I don't even remember.
They didn't play Dallas, but Dallas doesn't have a better Dallas's record, and the Rams' record in the division is better than Dallas's. So
okay, yeah. So it'll come down to conference.
That would lock in. Would be Green Bay would be the 1 seed, the Rams would be the 2 seed, the Bucs would be the 3 seed, and the Cowboys would be the 4 seed. So
right there you go.
This is one of those ones where the Bucs fans are rooting for the 49ers. And look, when they played up at Levi's Stadium earlier in that game that they won 31-10, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, they ran the ball like 40 times in that game.
Well, let me look. I can tell you.
They just ran the living hell out of the ball against the Rams. They didn't throw much at all that I can recall. I think that was a run first, pass second game.
Let's see. They were 15 of 79 passing for 179 yards.
Okay.
And they ran the ball, like you said, 44 times. But they only averaged 3.5 yards per carry. I think it was more a matter of just controlling the clock and keeping the Rams offense out of the field because they, like you pointed out, they held the ball for 39 minutes and 3 seconds in that game. Right. When your offense is on the field 2/3 of the game, you're in pretty good shape.
Well, and
just as Bill Parcells.
Yeah, you score 31 points and you don't throw the ball over 200 yards, so you're not throwing any long passes there. Interesting, but I don't know that you think they're going to be able to replicate that. Down in SoFi, and the Rams have played well in SoFi. And don't forget, on the other side of that line for the Rams is Von Miller. So
that's true. I forgot that I overlooked that. That's a good point, Jim.
Yeah, you don't want to. You can look. It's like pick your poison. You want to go one way and get smashed. You want to go the other way and get smashed. My thought would be to go up the middle if they could, but we'll see. But it's going to be a fun game, and the Niners realize that that this is it, and San Francisco desperately wants to make the playoffs, and they're going to have a little help if they lose this game.
Right.
So,
they'll need the Saints to lose, and I believe they need Philadelphia to lose in order to ensure that they would get a spot.
Yeah, it's
so. I mean, they want to win, but it's going to be an uphill climb.
Well, for sure. And the Saints, I think they're pretty safe on the Saints situation. But that Philadelphia's playing pretty well lately. So I don't know. Philadelphia plays the the
Dallas
Cowboys. So that's a key game for the Cowboys, because a loss there would definitely solidify a fourth seed for them.
Right.
So, there you go. All right. Rams.
The other marquee game that we were talking about, Jim.
The other Los Angeles team.
The Raiders and the Chargers. Both teams are 9-7. Now, the winner clinches a playoff spot. They could tie and both make the playoffs, but the Raiders have said that they are not playing for a tie. They're out to win.
Okay, good for them.
The Chargers, they won the first meeting this year 28-14 at home on October 4th. They snapped a 2-game losing streak by beating a listless Denver team last week. Denver pretty much mailed it in once Teddy Bridgewater got hurt, and they had to go to Drew Lock. The Raiders, they won three straight now. They beat the Colts last week on the road 23-20. A very gritty win for the Raiders there, beating a hot Indianapolis team. Both teams have struggled on the defense side of the ball, but the Chargers are 26th in scoring defense, giving up 26.5 points a game. They are 30th against the run. They have 136.7 yards, and they're 23rd in total defense. You have to wonder, we saw the Raiders use the run game to beat Denver a couple weeks ago in that dogfight up 17-13. Might we see more Josh Jacobs and Peyton Barber than we saw last week against Indianapolis, where Derek Carr tried to throw the ball all over the place? It might be a good strategy. Chargers 9-23-1 against the spread in their last 33 after scoring more than 30 points in their last game. They're 2-6 in their last 8 against the AFC. And the Raiders 5-1 in their last 6 after going up less than 150 yards through the air in their last game. I think that they'll probably give up more than 150 yards through the air this week. Justin Herbert, he's going to throw the ball a lot. The key thing is going to be, can the Raiders contain Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Austin Eckler?
Right.
And on the flip side, can the Chargers stop anybody? Because we've seen them struggle at times when it comes to playing defense this season.
Well, there's that. And for some reason, Justin Herbert is money at SoFi. But you take him out of there, I don't know what the heck it is, but on the road, Justin Herbert is not anywhere near as accurate or as, as explosive even. Because he can run. He's not spectacular at it, but he's good enough at it. He just doesn't seem to play well away from SoFi for some reason. And, like you say, the Raiders have been hot. And, the ghost of Al Davis is just screaming down at them, win, baby, win. So,
and that's true. You pointed that out about Herbert. He threw 7 interceptions in 9 home games and 21 touchdowns. On the road, he's only got 14 touchdowns and 7 picks.
Right.
And his rushing attempts go from 203 yards and a 5.49 yard average on the ground at home to 98 yards and a 4.08 yard average and 1 score on the road.
Right. I don't understand. I guess, it's great to play at home, but to really have those kind of splits is really kind of odd. And he's a hell of a young quarterback. I enjoy watching him. He's a good guy to watch. I just don't, he's going to have to figure that part out, because you got to win on the road too. You can't just win at home.
Right. And other breaking news around the league, Jim, you probably already know about this, but Shaq Barrett is now in the COVID protocols. He and JPP will not play Sunday. So neither will Ronald Jones,
Carolina,
Rashad Robinson, and Justin Watson. Richard Sherman doubtful.
Yeah, they've got to play Carolina. They got to beat Carolina, or they're going to end up being, and if they're lucky, the 3rd seed. If they're not, the 4th seed. So.
Well, I thought that didn't they beat Dallas already? Or did they not?
But Dallas has a better. It goes conference record than head-to-head.
I thought it went. No, it goes head-to-head then conference.
That's what I thought. But they beat Dallas the first game of the season. But I was told,
So then they should be locked into the 3 regardless.
You would think, but
because if you look at the standings, it tells you that right now the Rams and Tampa Bay are 12-4, and it says that
Dallas lost. Yeah, Dallas has lost one more game. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. They're locked. The worst they can do is 3. The best they can do is 2.
Also out this week, Tyler Huntley will start again at quarterback for the Ravens. Lamar Jackson has been ruled out, so it'll be Lamar Jackson done for the year, basically, as the Ravens are, clinging to life.
Yeah, I think a one other factor that may have weighed on their minds, being the fact that it was the last game of the season and their chances are very slim. It's going to be either very icy or very snowy on Sunday in Baltimore. So, we ended up picking up a couple of inches of snow here today. And so down at what they like to call the Russell Street Coliseum, better known as M&T Bank Stadium, the Ben Roethlisberger, retirement tour ends, and it all ends there. And it kind of poetically ends at Ravens and the Steelers. But that's going to be a real messy turf come Sunday. Come Sunday, it's either going to be messy because of ice or it's going to be messy because of a lot of precipitation coming from snow. So one of the two things does not bode well for somebody who's gimpy on their ankle whenever they return. So I think they're doing the wise thing. Tyler Huntley has done, as well as he could be expected. And the game is, I'm not going to say it's meaningless. It's more meaningful to the Steelers than it is to the Ravens. But
go ahead, Jim.
No, I was just saying that it's not a game that I think that the Ravens are willing to risk ruining their franchise quarterback on.
Just updated injury reports for tomorrow's games, because I know everybody was asking about the Chiefs and the Broncos. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Lucas Niang out for the Chiefs. For Denver, Ronald Darby and Pat Surtain II, 2 of their top corners out. Nate Hairston, their third-string corner, also is questionable, along with defensive end Shelby Harris, punter Sam Martin, and Brandon McManus. So if you're looking for Pat Mahomes to throw for a whole bunch of yards, you're probably going to be in luck, because without Surtain and Darby, the Chiefs are going to be – or not the Chiefs, the Broncos are going to be in trouble trying to stop the pass. Meanwhile, in the late game, Dallas-Philadelphia, Trevon Diggs, Jaron Kearse, Tony Pollard, and Donovan Wilson all questionable for Dallas. Miles Sanders out for Philadelphia with that hand injury. So you'll see more of Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, and Kenneth Gainwell in the backfield. Offensive lineman Landon Dickerson and Lane Johnson questionable for that contest.
And they're playing at the Link, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. So, we've been talking about posers all year long about who is it. I wouldn't want to play Philadelphia right now. I just wouldn't. They've been playing pretty good football lately.
And for what you were saying about the weather in Baltimore, it's actually going to be a balmy 43 on Sunday with rain.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's not going to be 43 prior to game time. So.
No, right. I mean, the high Saturday 32 with a low 25. So yeah, it's going to make for some ugly conditions.
Yeah.
Freezing rain possible as well.
Yeah. That's and that stadium down there is it's nothing like Orchard Park. Let me start with that right off the get-go. It is, however, the way it's built, because it's built right next to Oriole Park at Camden Yard. The wind does swirl in that building. So, it might be going from east to west, and then, you take a snap and it's going north to south all of a sudden. So,
well, funny you should talk about Orchard Park, because they got about 1.5 feet of snow yesterday.
It is January,
Temperatures on Sunday, the high 39 in Orchard Park, but this is now going to be a 4:30 game when the Jets come to town. Temperatures falling near freezing. The low on Sunday night will be 18, but guess what? The winds are going to be 20 to 30 miles an hour with an 80% chance of precipitation. Cue up Paul McGuire from the 92 AFC divisional playoff where Jeff Jager kicks the field goal and comes up 15 yards short, and he tells you, in this kind of weather, it's like kicking a brick.
I got a real quick. Remember in Giant Stadium, they used to have in the old Giant Stadium, not the MetLife Stadium. They used to have in the end zone, the south end zone, they had a garage door, and the garage door would go up and down to, let vehicles come in and out onto the field. And whenever the Giants were going in the, from the north to the south as opposed to the other way, they'd open that garage door. And if anybody went to kick, there'd be a big gust of wind coming down that pipe area. So Gary Yepremian told me one time that when his last season with the Dolphins and they were playing at the Jets there, that he kicked the ball and he said he thought, I really kicked it hard. And he goes, I looked at it, he goes, it goes 25, 35, and then all of a sudden it comes back 10, 15, 20. He goes, I thought it was going to go over my head, because of the way the wind blew through the stadium there. So, yeah, they have some really, really tricky winds in that situation. But some pretty fun stuff for Buffalo. The Jets are playing well, better than they have, which isn't saying much, but it is better. But if Buffalo wins, can they move up in the rankings?
Well, my hopes are that Buffalo wins, Cincinnati loses to Cleveland in the backup bowl, because that's basically what it is. Nobody wants to watch Brandon Allen and Case Keenum at all anyway. But if Cincinnati loses, Buffalo wins, Buffalo would move up to 3. And then if the Raiders happen to upend, the
Chargers.
Yeah, the Chargers, then the Raiders would be the 6th seed, and they would go to Orchard Park. And everybody knows that in the playoffs, the Raiders, it doesn't matter if they're in Oakland, it doesn't matter if they're in Las Vegas, it doesn't matter if they're in Los Angeles. The last 2 times that the Raiders have come to Orchard Park in the playoffs, the 1990 AFC title game, which was over by the time you sat down and had a snack, that was the 51-3 game. And then, of course, the game in the 92 divisional playoffs when they came to town, where Art Shell looked like, the Michelin man, dressed on the sideline because the temperature was 0 and it was 25 below with the wind chill.
Right.
And Buffalo won 29-23.
What's now? So, all right, if let's say the Chargers win, just for sake of argument, where do the Pats go?
Let's see. Well, you have to base it on what
would they become? Is a scenario that the Pats would end up playing the Bills?
It's quite possible. They were saying that was probably one of the most likely matchups. But I think that was also before Cincinnati decided they weren't going to play Joe Burrow and everybody else.
Right.
So you'd have to basically shuffle. Let's see. Let's just say hypothetically, we'll say Kansas City wins, and we'll say Tennessee wins, and we'll say Cincinnati loses. We'll say Buffalo wins. Now, if we say the Chargers beat the Raiders, and we say New England beats Miami,
right,
then New England would face Cincinnati because New England would be the 5 seed, Cincinnati would be the 4.
Right.
The Chargers would go to Buffalo. The Colts would go to Kansas City. And wouldn't that be a matchup, seeing Pat Mahomes trying to throw against the Colts defense and Jonathan Taylor trying to run against Kansas City? Talk about a clash of styles there.
That would be good. But the result in Orchard Park wouldn't be that much different,
True. As long as Cincinnati loses, it doesn't matter who wins that other game.
Because you're going to get Derek Carr, you're going to get Justin Herbert anyway. So, as I said, the result is, the jerseys are different, but I don't think that I would be as concerned about either of those teams coming to Orchard Park.
Yeah, unless, something else happens and the Colts end up there, I don't want to see Indianapolis again.
No. There's good reason not to do that. All right. So, bonus, folks. There you go. Bonus information. We're going to move on now for 2 for the money. You ready? Here we go.
Yep. like we said, the Bulls -6 over the Wiz. Chicago's won 8 in a row. It's hard to argue with a win streak like that. They're playing at home. DeMar DeRozan is healthy. Zach LaVine is healthy. Nikola Vucevic is healthy. The Wizards, they've sputtered of late. They just lost to Houston. God, that's scary when you think about how you lost to a team that, had 3 wins outside of a 7-game win streak all season. Look for the Bulls to capitalize. The United Center making 9 straight W's. The Capitals, as good as the Blues play at home, I'm a little worried after St. Louis got knocked off, blew a 2-goal lead against Pittsburgh. Washington is rested. Like you said, Ovechkin's ready to hit somebody that's not wearing a Capitals jersey. Samsonov has been very good between the pipes. He's got the edge over Binnington. I look for Washington to steal that one on the road. The Nets over the Bucks. Now remember, Kyrie Irving won't play tonight because they're playing at the Barclays Center.
Oh, maybe.
And he can't make the trip. I guess he could buy a ticket. That's about it. I don't even know if he can buy a ticket, though.
He's not. Actually, he couldn't. He's not. He couldn't. He wouldn't have a vaccination card.
He can watch it on TV.
Yeah, that's true.
I think Ian Eagle or somebody will have the game on MSG or whatever. Yeah. Or Yes. I don't remember which one.
Yeah, they're on Yes, and Ian Eagle would be the normal play-by-play announcer for that game.
And finally, the Timberwolves -6 over the Thunder in the Northwest Division matchup. The Thunder, they're terrible. Minnesota, they're actually getting guys back. They'll have Karl Anthony Towns. They'll have Anthony Edwards. They'll have D'Angelo Russell. Minnesota, they're still in the playoffs. They'd be in the play-in tournament if the season ended today. Meanwhile, Oklahoma City, the only team they're ahead of in the West is the aforementioned Rockets. So that's all we need to talk about there. Oklahoma City doesn't score a ton of points. You have to think Minnesota will come up with the win.
And now we go from 2 for the money, 4 for the show.
Right, and like we said, Carolina at home over Calgary. Carolina hasn't played since Saturday. Calgary's playing their 3rd game in 4 nights. They lost yesterday to Tampa Bay. You can't put a whole lot of faith in a team that's tired and that is struggling, like we've seen in the last couple games. Mm-hmm. They've been outscored 10-3 in that stretch. Cleveland State -8.5 over Robert Morris. We told you Robert Morris is the East Coast version of IUPUI. You can, the pinata, come in, beat them, and leave. Philadelphia -7.5 over San Antonio. The Spurs obviously minus all those guys in the COVID protocols is a blow. And finally, Xavier going on the road against Butler. The Musketeers favored by 6.5 over the Bulldogs on the road. Travis Steele's done a good job with the Musketeers. Butler, I'm still not sold on doing anything because they play at such a slow pace and it'll bore you to death. The Musketeers have too much talent for Butler to contain in that one.
I think that's our first Xavier sighting so far this season.
I believe it is.
So there you go. All right. And this one, folks, because we're just saying, you know what? There's a lot of fun combinations here. Pick. And the man who's going to...
You pick it. We don't have to.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
Like we said, Youngstown State -5 over Indiana Purdue Fort Wayne. Obviously, the Penguins are playing well. The Mastodons 0-5 on the road. In a Patriot League matchup, we don't talk much about the Patriot League, Jim, but Navy favored by 11 over Bucknell. This is not the same Bucknell team you're used to seeing as a lower seed in the NCAA tournament that scares people. They've struggled this year. They're retooling. It's strange to see Navy as a double-digit favorite. We should have asked Pete Medhurst what he thought about that. I don't know if he does. I don't know if he does basketball at all.
He's calling the game, so he should know.
Oh, he does do basketball? I didn't know.
He does their football. He does their basketball, and there's a couple of other sports that they do.
I knew he did lacrosse.
Yeah, he does that too. So
yeah, Navy -11. They're at home at Annapolis. Ohio, they're 7-0 at home this season. I like them -8 over Kent State in the MAC. Ohio beat Akron on the road the other day. It burned me because I thought that the Zips would have prevailed in that one. But the Bobcats they played good basketball. Look for them to get the win. Harvard at -3 at home over Brown. Let's face it, Tommy Emicker, he's become an institution up there at Harvard.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to think that they get the win at home over a good Brown team that's had some struggles of late. They fell to Penn last week by 4. Calgary and Carolina, I look to go over 6 just because of the fact that Carolina is playing well offensively, and we've seen Calgary's defense struggle of late, giving up several goals in each of the last 2 games. Washington and St. Louis, I look to stay under 6.5. Both teams have decent goaltending. The Capitals better in that department, but St. Louis doesn't give up a ton offensively at home, so look for that to be a 3-2, 4-2 type of game that ends up short of the mark. Cleveland -6 over Portland. I probably could have moved that up to the into the 2 or the 4s, but I overlooked it just because I did it late last night. Obviously, Portland without McCollum and Lillard, they're going to struggle. Cleveland is fairly healthy, and Portland is completely fallen apart. Denver -8 over Sacramento. The Kings won't have Richaun Holmes again. The Nuggets are at home. Obviously, playing in Denver is a rough environment, as Jim has pointed out to you before. You can play well for 3 quarters, suck wind in the 4th, and end up turning a 10-point lead into a 10-point loss in a hurry.
Mm-hmm. And
plus, the Kings don't have anybody that can contain Nikola Jokic. I mean, it's hard to do it anyway if you're a good team or not, and right. The Kings aren't. The Mavs -2.5 over the Rockets. I know Luka Doncic is doubtful tonight, but it's Houston, so we'll see the Rockets win streak end at 1.
Right.
And the Hawks +3 over the Lakers. It's just tough to have a ton of faith in a Lakers team that has been so mediocre, mainly because they don't have any depth. And Joaquin, I'm glad that everybody thinks Reichel is funny. We think it's funny that he thinks he knows what he's talking about sometimes. And don't forget, he's a Jets fan. So, I mean, that's funny enough on its own merits.
Well, he did luck into the Mets this year so far. But then again, just before we came on, I was speaking to someone heavily involved in what's going on in the players' negotiations with the owners in baseball. And he was telling me that he would not rule out the possibility of them not playing baseball this year. So
wouldn't that just be fitting for all the guys that the Mets signed for them not to play?
That would be pretty much the Mets. They'd have to pay all those guys, and then next year they'd be a year older and not as good. So they just put Buck Showalter back in ice, and away you go. But,
yeah, they can defrost him again.
We think Scott is funny. We do. And by the way, you won't have to wait long. About 15 minutes. The boys will be coming on with Back to the Window right here on the Winners and Whiners Sports Betting Network. So
I don't know if they steal our picks for Bet the Farm.
I don't know what they had. What did they have for Bet the Farm?
I don't know what they had yesterday, but I remember when they stole the Oakland game last week.
I actually got it right here. Hold on.
Oh, look at this. Jim's going to steal their Bet the Farm pick and give it to you now, so you don't have to tune in.
The Bet the Farm was a game we talked about. Long Beach,
look at that.
LA, and they took the over a 143.
See that? They jumped on our stuff again.
Oh well. You know what?
They should start paying us.
Imitation is the greatest form of flattery, my friend. So there you go.
So is money, but
we kid because we love Scott and Scott. Coming up at
yes, Daryl, we did cover the FCS title game.
Did you miss it?
We said North Dakota State -7, and if you're going to play the total, play under 42. It just boils down to the fact that North Dakota State's been here and done that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this is their 9th title game in 11 years. Meanwhile, Montana State hasn't been in an FCS title game since the 80s. There's a lot of tradition with the Bison, and you have to think that they're gonna run the ball repeatedly.
You also brought up that both teams are good defense.
Yeah, like we said, that's why you stick with the under there, just because Montana State second in the league or second in the FCS among the 123 teams in scoring defense at 13.4 points a game. North Dakota State number 1. They give up 11.21 points a game this season.
Well, All right. Any final quick questions, folks, before we head on out for the?
Well, TL asked about Cornell and Penn tonight. I'm surprised that Penn was favored by 4.5 points. The only thing I can think of is because that game's at the Palestra. But I mean, Penn is 4-10, and Cornell's 9-3. So I would be happy to take Cornell with the points, just based on the fact that, I mean, the Big Red is good offensively, and Penn has struggled on the defensive end of the floor. Cornell loves to run. They're 5th in the nation in tempo. They average 74.4 possessions a game. If you look at what Penn's done, you know, they've only played 3 home games. They beat Brown and they beat Lafayette, which nobody's impressed when you beat the Leopards. And they lost to Villanova.
There's no shame there.
No, there's no shame there. But, I mean, on the road, they lost to Towson, and they lost to Temple, and they lost to St. Joe's, and they lost to LaSalle. And, you know, they've played just once since December 11th when they beat Brown Sunday. So they've only played once in the last going on 4 weeks.
Yeah. Look, I don't know, and you're the expert here, but the Ivies are almost pretty predictable. If there's a, you know, if you've got a team like Cornell and coming in to play Penn, and they're that good, why would you not go that route?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think a lot of it is the fact that, you know, they're playing in the Palestra. I think a lot of it could be also factored in that Penn has won, you know, a bunch of meetings in a row between these teams, but that was a different team. I mean, you're not looking at the same Penn team that you saw the last couple of years, because Penn won last year. They beat Cornell by 14 at home. They beat them by 6 on the road. Right. The year before, they won by 18 at home. But again, we're not talking about that Penn team. This is a different Penn team. It's a different Cornell team.
Right.
And, you know, the Big Red, you know, they've played some good basketball. They gave Syracuse trouble, you know, right before New Year's. Syracuse beat them by 12, you know, and that was in the Carrier Dome. So they're not going to be too intimidated by going to the Palestra, a place where they play all the time.
Right. I wouldn't, you know, if this is hockey, I'd be concerned, but it's not. So I think, I think Cornell, you got to take Cornell.
I mean, Cornell's 5th in the nation in scoring offense. They average 85.7 points a game. Penn is 327th in defense. They give up 76 points a game. They're 334th in field goal percentage defense, and they're 280th in three-point defense. Cornell shoots better than 48% from the floor and 37% from three. The only thing I can think of is why they're an underdog, and I said this to John earlier when he asked me about this game. The only thing I can think of is because it's at the Palestra and Penn has had success against Cornell recently, but it's not the same team that we've seen before. I would take the points with Cornell.
Yeah, I think you're right. Any last?
Daryl, we said we like Georgetown with the points because we don't like the fact that Marquette is Marquette, you know, they beat Providence the other day, but before that they lost 4 in a row, and Georgetown will beat the crap out of you on the glass because that's what they do.
Yep, they may not be shooting well from outside, but, you know, from 4 feet away, they're not bad.
And also, Daryl, happy birthday, so we'll give you a free pass for forgetting that our show was today.
Yeah, thanks.
Just because it was your birthday.
Well, you know, celebrate for us. Have one, you know, have a beverage for us, the beverage of your choice. So, all right. Any last thoughts, Chris, before we head out for the weekend?
Well, like I said, Jim, it's going to be an interesting weekend, especially on the gridiron with some of these games where, like you said, it's not going to matter as to who gets in the playoffs. It's going to be a matter of who goes where in the playoffs. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what unfolds. Can Indianapolis break that streak of not winning in Jacksonville since 2014? I mean, they're favored by 15 points. But, you know, you got Carson Wentz under center, and stranger things have happened. They jumped all over Jacksonville early in the first meeting and then had to hang on for dear life. And that was at the RCA Dome.
Right. Well, Carson Wentz has had situations where he's taken certain victory and turned it into abject defeat. So it wouldn't be the first time. But you got to think they haven't won there since 2014.
Yep.
How many quarterbacks and coaches have gone through Jacksonville since 2014?
Do you even want to know?
No, I don't. We don't have that much time. It'll be Tuesday by the time we finish.
That's true.
Good God. But, if they're going to, I'll tell you what, if they don't do it, then they don't deserve to be in the playoffs.
And I would agree with that because, if you can't win when you know that that your season hangs basically in the balance here against a team that has 2 wins.
Yeah, and it's not like Jacksonville's down there going, let's win one wait a minute, who's coaching this week? So, yeah.
If you look there in the last 8 games in this skid for Jacksonville, they haven't scored more than 21 points, and they've only broke the 20-point barrier once, and that was that loss to the Jets 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Other than that, they've scored 17-10, 14-7, nothing, 16 and 10. And the 17 points was in that loss to the Colts in mid-November. Remember, they were down 17 to nothing in the first quarter, and then came back. It was 20-17 in the fourth. It was 23-17 with 2.5 minutes to go, and Jacksonville had the ball but couldn't cash in. So, the Colts, maybe they're a little gun shy.
You never know. I'd just take them all and run. Run.
That's what you should do.
But, who am I? I'm not coaching the team. Frank Wright's coaching the team. Is Frank Wright coaching the team?
Yep.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to tell Frank to.
I had a mental block on Frank there. Sorry, Frank.
No, wait. I don't want to see Indianapolis. So I'll tell Frank to throw the ball 50 times.
Right. Carson Wentz. I'll tell you what. If Frank Wright was throwing the ball 50 times, I wouldn't have as much concern as I did if Carson Wentz was throwing it.
That's true.
But anyway. All right. Well, look, folks, we've had a lot of fun here on Friday. Thanks for hanging out with us. Come back to us on Monday. Stay tuned in almost 7 minutes. Scott and Scott will jump in there with, back to the window right here on the Winners and Whiners Sports Betting Network. And, look, once we're off the air and you miss us, and some of you clearly have, go back and watch the show. Have some fun with us. And we always love your questions. Please bring your questions. Come smash that like button on Facebook, on YouTube. And, if you want to comment below. There's plenty of opportunity to comment as well. So we're looking forward to having.
Don't forget to blast the guy yesterday that said that our picks were brutal and then proceeded to shut up after we won all 9 games that we talked about at the top of the show.
Clearly he came in late. Okay, so there you go. Before you criticize, watch the whole show. You may have missed something. So that's another reason to come. If you hit the subscribe button, then you'll get the notification that it's time for us to come on. So by all means, do that. All right, gang. Look, it's been fun. Chris, it's been great, buddy. And, we will see you all on Monday, right back here for Just Parlays, right on the Winners and Whiners Sports Betting Network. Take care, everybody.